There is a question here. What is the Buddhist attitude toward religious monopoly? This is also an important question. I think all of you know that there are some religious groups who monopolize everything in this world or in this universe. So according to them, the whole universe is their property, created by their father. So we have no share. So this is called religious monopoly. Again, if anybody wants to find out his or her salvation or to go to heaven, must go through them, through their religion or through their God. Otherwise, no hope and no salvation. Not only that, those who do not accept their religion cannot escape from hell. Hell is purposely created for those who do not accept their religion. These are the important argument, and many others want to know why is it necessary for them to monopolize. Is there such monopoly in the Buddha's teaching? So what did he say regarding this belief? That as Buddhists, can we say that this world was created by a Buddha or created by a Buddhist God? Therefore, this is our property. We cannot say. If not, always we talk about karma. We are experiencing good and bad effects, fortunate or unfortunate life, miserable or pleasurable life. For that, we say it is due to our own karma. Can we say that karma is our property? If not, as Buddhists we believe that there will be another life hereafter. That means after our death, there will be another life. Can we say the Buddhists are the only people who get another life after their death? No. The Buddha has never preached or never introduced this kind of religion. His interpretation or the explanation of the religious concept and practices are common to whole mankind, not limited to one particular country or race. All of you know Buddhism or the Buddha appeared in northern India. There is no controversy. But today, people all over the world practice, believe, respect this religion, not as an Indian religion, but by realizing this teaching or this religion is important for the mankind, human beings. So by considering in this way, they agreed to accept at the beginning. So maintained for more than 2000 years. Because of this religious monopoly, those believers have created very bad atmosphere in the religious field. That means discriminations and jealousy and sometimes hatred also. Because of this monopoly, there are many rationalists, great philosophers, who do not agree or who never accept any religion. According to them, when you study the history of religion, we can understand religions have done a lot of damages to human beings. How they declared war, how they massacred innocent human beings because of their religion. Violence, bloodshed, discrimination, hatred, and division. Mankind is divided into different groups, and one group cannot work or live together because of their religious discriminations. This is the danger of religious monopoly. So one of them is Bertrand Russell's, supposed to be the wisdom of the West in the 20th century. He had no religion, but everybody respect him as one of the intellectuals. His ideas. He is the one who says religions have done more harm than good to mankind. There is no doubt there are some good advisors in religion. But religion, here religion means religious authorities. Those who handle this religion, so-called religionists, by using their jealousy, selfishness, egoism, greed, introduce these evil forces through their religion, by using their religions as weapons. Again, when you study the present situation in many parts of the world, we can see how people use religion to gain more worldly powers. They do not take religion to cultivate their way of life. They do not take religion for their spiritual development or mental training or purity or to gain more wisdom and understanding, but use the name of religion to influence others, innocent people. Many people are innocent and ignorant, so they mislead others, either to gain more political power, worldly material gain, or to enjoy their life by using this religion. That is why there is a very bad religious competition in many parts of the world. Very unhealthy religious competition. One group goes on attacking, condemning, criticizing, accusing, blaming, ridiculing the existing other religion. Another groups also go out and do the same thing. This is called very unhealthy religious competition. And why do they want to take so much of troubles and pains to go and introduce their religion? For what purpose? Are they really honest people who want to pave the way for us to go to heaven? What is their ulterior motive? Are they not working for their worldly powers, material gain, more and more income? Have they got anything to prove that their religion is far superior to the other existing religion? Can they prove that they are more kind, more compassionate, they have more tolerance, they are very honest people, they are very generous people? Have they got anything to prove? Nothing. All are equal. Then why? Oh, what are they going to contribute? Only one thing. They promise only heaven. Anyone can promise, because there is no evidence to prove. Innocent people get into their net. They become the victims because they have not learned their own religion. They are emotional. Their understanding is very, very narrow. They believe what they come and talk because they were trained how to talk. This is the way how people try to introduce religion and monopolize everything. So according to them, this world, this earth, and the sun, and the moons, and galaxies, and the universe, and heaven and hell, everything is created by them. Others have no share, no voice, unless they accept their religion. But before their religions come into existence in this world, other religions existed for thousands of years. And they too had their culture, their morals and ethics and knowledge and wisdom and religious way of life. So, the Buddha was a very, very liberal-minded religious teacher. He never tried to monopolize anything in this world. He has never uttered even one word to tell others that his religion, his preaching, his dharma is the only correct religion in this world. But he pointed out common universal values which we can find in many other religions also, not only in Buddhism. So when you read Anguttara Nikaya, Sutra Pitaka, the simple saying of the Buddha is very important guideline for us. What is this advice? He says, if you can find truth in any religion, accept the truth. This is a wonderful advice. But others could not give such advice. To them, truth can be found only in their religion, only in their holy books. You cannot find somewhere else. That is the biggest mistake they have done. Because the founder of one religion lived only for a few years, preached only for a few years. If not, they got a message from heaven, they say, revealed to others. Worldly condition, situation, way of life, everything is going on changing. How can one religious teacher reveal everything in this universe? Because changes always take place. So by considering this very carefully, the Buddha has given this advice. At any time, anywhere, in any religion, or in any other subject, if you can find the truth, accept this truth. So what happened? Those who try to monopolize everything as their religious properties were in trouble when scientists discovered so many things in this world which contradict to their belief. Because scientists did not depend on any religion. They did not believe in God. They had no mythologies or superstitious ideas. They wanted to study, investigate, find out living example to prove that it is true, and then accepted. So scientific discoveries depend on this way, this method. So if you take one by one, so many things that scientists have discovered, all of them were contradicting at that time to the existing religions. So they had a very big battle. Religious authorities and scientists had a very big battle for nearly 100 years. In the end, it has become a losing battle to the religious group. Scientists did not give up anything what they have discovered. There is nothing for them to give up. But religious beliefs are based on mythologies, traditions, imaginations, and many things without any investigation, without proper understanding. This is the nature of religious belief. Let us take few examples, then you can understand. How many thousands of years that people maintain that sun rises? Astrology also says sun rises and goes. So modern scientific discoveries explain actually the sun does not go, remains in the space moving, but this earth goes around. Later we realize this. Even then, when we talk, still we use this term. Sun rises, sun setting. But the sun remains there. This one moves, but we don't want to use that term. So all these religious beliefs are exactly like this. what people have accepted long ago according to their observation at that time without realizing. When Charles Darwin explained the nature of evolution, anthropology, that discovery has become a very big blow to the religious authorities. He says, human life never existed on this earth at once. This is a gradual development, evolution. But there are religious books, holy books, or divine message says, God created this human life in the image of God. That means human beings appeared at once, created by God. So these two things cannot agree. Anthropologists have collected more than enough evidences to prove the link, fossils, how these elements and energies joined together and went on evolving and evolving and changing and changing. No one can deny this. In the end, in 1950, by realizing that it is a losing battle to fight with modern discovery, the religious authorities announced officially, this time, 1950, those who like to accept anthropology as a truth are at liberty to accept it. That means withdraw. They had to withdraw. In other words, they had to surrender. Later, they have twisted and changed the interpretations. Today, you can hear how they explain. Say 7,000 or 8,000 years. According to them, this earth and human beings are only 7,000 or 8,000, 6,000 or 7,000 years old, not more than that. Creation has taken place, say 6,000 years ago. But anthropology says more than 2 million years ago there were human beings on this earth. So how do they interpret now, religious authorities? They say 100 years is more than 1 million years. But this interpretation they give only now, after anthropology. But earlier they have never mentioned this. 100 or 1,000 means 1 million, so 2 million. See how they have twisted. We have no such problems. As Buddhists, we never face this kind of problems to withdraw or to twist, to change the basic teachings of the Buddha, because the Buddha has given us full freedom to accept the truth in other existing subject or religions or scientific discoveries. Now you can understand the danger of monopoly. So all these problems they had to face, or we are facing today, because of this religious monopoly. Because they never regard that others can find out their salvation without going through their God. We know that Catholic Church was a very orthodox church, and they maintained this belief very strongly. Recently they have announced. This announcement or statements appeared in a local newspaper, Malay Mail. Full page. First time they announce. What do they say? Now they can believe not only Christians, the followers of other religions also can find out their salvation. They had to withdraw that monopoly because they knew better to open the gate earlier. They knew. Before others come and break the door, better to open it earlier. Few years ago, a Catholic priest came to see me. I had a long talk with him. So I gave one copy of my book, What Buddhists Believe. After reading this book, 1 week later, he came to see me. Then he told me, do you know what happened to me? After reading your book, I have become a very good Christian. You know, how come? No, I am not joking. Formerly I had a very strong belief. The followers of all these religions, or those who have no religions, also must go through Jesus to find out salvation. Otherwise, no salvation for them. But after reading your book, I withdraw this belief. Now I can accept the followers of other religions also can find out their salvation. That is why I told you, now I am a good Christian. I mentioned this during so many conferences in front of bishop and archbishop and different Christian denominations and Methodists and Catholics and Protestants and Anglican. I mentioned this. No challenge. Here we can understand the danger of religious monopoly and how they are withdrawing one after the other. Even during the Buddha's time in India, many people believe that only man can go to heaven. Women had no chance because women had no place in the society. Not even at home, only in the kitchen. The only religious teacher in this world who has given so much of full freedom, full authority or equal right to lead the religious life is the Buddha. Nobody else. There. He broke these traditions and this belief. Those who believe that man is the only person who can attain sainthood, arahanthood, by giving this freedom to women to enter into the holy order, they have proven that women also can attain sainthood and nirvana and final salvation. Formerly they have never heard this in their life, in the human history. So no monopoly. Again, those who believe either men or the followers of one particular religion can gain their final salvation, but not others. And this belief also, traditions also broken by the Buddha. So according to the Buddha, beliefs are not important. Religious labels are not important. Whether you have a particular religion or not, whether you have any belief or not, if you know how to lead a noble life, noble means respectable, harmless life. Respectable means useful life, not selfish. So if we are not selfish, if we are not dangerous to the society, if our life is harmless, if we do not try to find out our livelihood by misleading, bluffing or hurting or disturbing others, to the Buddha, we are religious people. These are the qualities and the virtues that the Buddha wanted us to cultivate to be religious. But he did not introduce a religious way of life for us to go and worship and kneel down and pray and offer and perform rites and rituals and this and that. He did not introduce this kind of religion. To him, actually there are no religious values in those practices. To us, they are very important. According to our worldly way of thinking, worldly life, such practices are important. So from time to time, the followers have introduced those belief practices by neglecting the most important aspects of a religion. Now what is happening today? Religious competition is going on. There are more and more worshippers, more and more followers, and more people to perform religious rites and rituals. But how many people are trying to be religious? Go and observe. All over the country, all over the world, you can see churches, mosques, temples, and other places of worship fully crowded. Thousands and thousands of worshippers go and pray and pray and pray. And lorry load of justice and papers they bring and burns and burns and burn religion. Religious way of life. And they go and pray to this God and that God and any God. That is religion. And who introduced this kind of religion? Nobody. Followers. They themselves started. There are many discourses, dialogue, discussion during the Buddha's time regarding these practices. To understand the Buddha's attitude, especially when you read that book, the Dhammapada, stories and sayings of the Buddha, you can understand the real meaning of a religious life. Who is a religious man? How to define? Can we say a man who always prays, always worships, always believe in God or Buddha or anybody. Another man never worship anybody, never perform any religious rites, never believe in anything, either God or Buddha. He had no such idea. But he can understand that certain things are bad because they are harmful, create sufferings, disturbances, worries. Therefore, my duty is not to violate, not to do such things. By realizing these things are bad, not because of the Buddha, not because of God, not because of punishment, but he can understand these things are wrong because they have human mind to think, to understand. Again, without developing his selfish craving, selfish ideas, to enjoy himself by disregarding others or discriminating others or disturbing others. He wants to share his pleasure, his happiness, whatever he has. Contribute something for the benefit of others, to relieve others' suffering. But he never worship anybody, never pray to anybody. He knows certain things are bad, certain things are good. All these good things he never performed either to please the Buddha or God, by expecting a reward from the Buddha or God. This is the way how they introduce religion. They say, you should not do these things because this is the law, commandment given by the God. If you violate, God will punish you. My dear friend, this language is good for those primitive people few thousand years ago who could not understand why these things are bad. Or today, valid only for small children because they cannot understand why these things are bad. The Buddha did not use this language. I have told you this on many, many, many occasions, the Buddha's attitude. Can you remember? One example. If you cannot understand killing, destroying, disturbing others is bad, then consider in this way. When another person comes and tries to kill you, disturb you, how do you feel? Is it necessary for you to get any commandment to understand how you feel at that time? To understand why it is bad? So everything in this world, why these things are bad, we can understand by considering in that way. So not necessary for us to get any law, any commandment from another person. Must give due credit to human intelligence. We know why they are bad, not because of punishment, but we disgrace our human dignity. We abuse our human intelligence by violating, disturbing innocent people. Why can't we think in that way? Again, on the other hand, we want to do some service to others, to help others, to please God. What for? expect a big reward from him. Otherwise, nothing doing. Why should I serve others? Why should I help others if God is not going to give me a big reward? That way of thinking is a selfish idea. If there is no reward for you, you are not willing to do anything for the welfare of others. But if you can consider in this way, I should not be selfish. I must try to share my pleasure, my happiness with others. When you think in that way, automatically you reduce your selfishness, your cruelty, your anger, your jealousy. So many evil forces naturally drop from your mind. If you do all these services to others by expecting a big reward from heaven, you never reduce any of those evil forces from your mind. Now you can understand the Buddhist attitude. By considering, by knowing, these things are bad, these things are good. Not only for your own benefit. More than thousands times the Buddha has mentioned this in his discourses. Whenever you are going to do something, you may feel or you think, oh, this is very good for you. The Buddha says that is not enough. At the same time, you have to think that whether this is good for the others also. Always you have to look at both sides. If it is good for you as well as for others, then go ahead. If it is good only for you and bad for others, better not to do that. Again, the other way around. It is good for others, but very bad for you. Also better not to do that. What is the idea there? Otherwise there will be misunderstanding. You can serve others, you can help and support others by committing certain evil deeds. Example, you can go and rob somebody's property and support a poor family. Your idea is to do some good deeds to support this poor family. But the method that you have adopted to do that is wrong. That is what is the Buddha's idea. When you are going to do some service to others, if the method is wrong, you harm yourself. Always try to adopt a correct method to serve others. See how gentle, how noble, how reasonable his way of preaching. So far I have mentioned the Buddha has never uttered even one word where we can find that the Buddha is the only savior, only religious teacher, only enlightened person in this world. No. And he never said he is the only one who can reveal the truth. Other religious teachers could not reveal the truth. He never said he is the only one who can pave the way for you to go to heaven. Others cannot do. Pujako labhate pujan, vandako pativandana. This is another beautiful saying. If you do not respect others, others also never respect you. Respect beget respect. Pujako labate puja. Vandako pativanda. Therefore, you can respect anybody, the follower of any religion. So irrespective of their religious label, you can respect anybody if you think that person is worthy of respect. This is the way our Buddha has introduced. So he never said, you should not worship, should not respect others, respect only the Buddha. But others believe if they worship or respect others, their God get angry and punish. Human mentality they injected into the God idea. Otherwise, how can they say, how can an understanding God punish innocent man just because he respects another God? What harm is there? This is the danger of religious monopoly. Respect anybody. This is the danger of religious monopoly. Respect anybody. As Buddhists, you can respect Jesus Christ. If the Buddha come to know that you respect Jesus Christ, he says sadhu. This is the nature of the Buddha. You can respect Prophet Muhammad, Krishna, Rama, or the founder of Confucius. Wonderful morals and ethics in appreciation of his contribution. It is a real blessing according to the Buddha. There is nobody to punish you, curse you, just because you respect all those religious teachers. So where is monopoly? Human weaknesses, human jealousy, human selfishness, they try to introduce through their religion. Otherwise they cannot say, oh, you should not worship another religious teacher. You should not worship another God. If you do that, you go to hell. What justification is there to condemn that innocent man to eternal hell just because he worshipped another God? Next one. What do Buddhists think about the destiny of the followers of other religions? Also related to the same questions. What is their fate? They are not Buddhist. They do not practice Buddhism. They do not worship the Buddha. They do not believe in karma. They do not believe in rebirth. Then what will happen to them after they are dead? Go to hell, isn't it? Yeah, that is what others say. Now if we do not believe in their God, if we do not pray to their God, we have no hope. Must be prepared to go to hell. So can we find even one word either by the Buddha or his disciples or any other scholars mentioned regarding this subject? A well-known Buddhist scholar in India has mentioned this. In Sanskrit language, he has written this. Sapakshe vidyate raga, parapakshe tu apriya, nirvanang nadi gacchesi, nasivang dvandacharina. This is the Buddhist attitude. Swapakshe vidyate raga. The followers of one particular religious group or one particular schools of religion think that their religion or their schools is the only correct religion or the correct schools. Parapakshe tu apriya. And hate, discriminate, condemn the existing other religions or the other religious schools of the same religion. Remember this. Now in Buddhism, there are many schools. Theravada, Mahayana, Tantrayana, Vajrayana, and this yana, that yana. So many new yanas appear. This will continue forever. And every school, every sect say this is the correct one. Others are wrong. That is human egoism, human selfishness, human narrow-mindedness, but no religion there. And hear this saying, remember. If people think that our religion is the only correct religion, our schools of religion, Buddhism, is the only correct one, all the others are wrong, what will happen? It's very dangerous. Nirvanang nadhigacchesi. Such people never get the chance to attain nirvanic bliss. By hating other religions and praising your own religion, you try to go to nirvana. It will never happen. Nasivang dvandacharina. Not only that. Such narrow-minded people never get the chance to live peacefully. Now this is Buddhism. Therefore, how can we say the followers of other religions are very unfortunate? Yes, there are certain things that they do which we cannot agree. Now let us take how they slaughter animals. Yes, we cannot agree. It is true. But how many more good qualities, virtues, principles that they maintain, sometimes better than Buddhists. Therefore, we should not think that we maintain all the good qualities. Or we can say we are vegetarians. We don't kill, we don't eat. But those who say they are vegetarian think they are very pure. But such people can become number one crook. Very dangerous people. Very jealous type of people. Then where is purity and holiness in that way of life? Now I have been associating with Christians, Muslims, Hindus and others, those who have no religions also. And I found out some of them are real gentlemen. They have a lot of kindness, compassion, honesty, understanding. Sometimes we cannot find such good qualities amongst so-called Buddhists. This is more than enough for us to understand that our accusation is wrong just because they are not belong to our religion. There is another belief. Many people ask this question. Now we try to attain nirvana. We know it is impossible for us to gain at once or within this lifetime because we are very heavy. Heavy means lot of evil forces are still very active in our mind. So rebirth take place. So in the next life, we try to reduce some more. And again, when another rebirth take place, we try to reduce some more. Going on reducing evil thought, evil habit, cultivating good thoughts and good habits. Then one day, we will be landed, reach the final goal. The question is this. Now we are Buddhist because we were born in Buddhist families. So what will happen to us, or how can we practice Buddhism if rebirth take place in a Christian family or a Muslim family? What do you think about this? You are at loss, isn't it? Don't think in that. You are wrong. That is why I told you earlier. Amongst those Muslims and Christians and Hindus and many others, there are many who observe all the 5 precepts also. Remember this. There are many Christians and Muslims who do not kill. They say very bad, we don't like it. They can understand. And stealing, buffing, swindling, all these things they can understand. Not necessary to be Buddhist or to use this Buddhist label. They know how to value these good qualities and principles. Now let us study the previous birth stories of the Buddha. He started to work for gaining his enlightenment long ago and went on cultivating life after life. But do you think all the while rebirth has taken place in Buddhist families? Where were Buddhist families at that time? Not even one. Even at the final birth, forget about the previous birth. He was not born in a Buddhist family. The Buddha's father and mothers are not Buddhist. Just because we were born in Buddhist family and we were brought up according to the environment or according to their way of life, so we accepted Buddhism as our traditions or family background or as our culture or as our heritage, but not realizing what Buddhism is. But it is not necessary to be born in Buddhist families to understand truth, to understand the danger of evil deeds, to understand the nature of the value of good deeds. Others also can understand. There are many who have no religion at all, not belong to any of those existing religions. Some of them say, actually it is shameful for us to say that we belong to any of these religions. When you observe how those followers of various religions behave, but they too have wonderful principles, good qualities. They also behave like gentlemen. The Buddha introduced this type of religion. Actually, he did not introduce a religion. A noble way of life. That is called dharma. He introduced dharma. What is dharma? Righteous, noble, respectable, harmless life. For us to lead by allowing others to live peacefully without disturbing them. At the same time, to cultivate our life, our mind, to find out the ultimate aim of this life. There must be an aim. There must be a purpose. Otherwise, there is no meaning at all existing in this world in this way. Almost every day we are worrying, suffering, grumbling, accusing, condemning, criticizing, and maintaining fear, suspicion, unhappiness. So what is the big idea of maintaining this life? What do we gain? Think for a while. There must be a purpose. Some others say, we must suffer. Otherwise, it is very difficult to go to heaven. I cannot understand that. Why is it necessary to suffer to go to heaven? If there is anybody to create us to suffer in order to go to heaven, why that Creator cannot create us straightway in heaven at once without sending here? I cannot understand. I have told you, suffering is natural, not created by anybody. If we exist, we have to suffer. This is natural. This is the nature of existence. If there is no suffering, there is no existence. The Buddha or God or devils have nothing to do with this. This is the nature of existence. Then, is it advisable for us to remain forever life after life? If we are not happy, if we cannot satisfy with this life, with this world and situation, then is there any solution for us to get rid of all these existing problems? Or if there is any solution, that is the purpose. That is the purpose of life. A well-known Indian poet composed a poem in Hindi language. His name is Sri Ramachandra Bharati. In Hindi language, I cannot remember the poem, the meaning. He says, we were taught that God created us. But we can understand just because of His creation how we suffer. So today we suffer in this world because of Him. If He kept quiet without creating us, there is nobody to suffer. At the same time, He also asks us to worship Him. I really cannot understand why we should worship Him. Because of Him we are in trouble now. Why should we worship Him? Oh, this is not my preaching, my dear friend. He is a well-known poet in India. How he thinks? So you must understand, there are people who can think in this way. If he thinks we were created by someone to suffer like this, do you think simply by worshipping Him we can get rid of this suffering? And what is the difficulty for Him to create us without allowing us to suffer like this? This is our argument. That's why I told you suffering is natural. No one is free from suffering, either in this world or any other part of the world, but different degrees. Then the aim of life is to see the end of our battle. Living is a big battle. Every minute, every second, we are fighting with our life. When we see the end of this battle, when we can experience full freedom in our life, when we can exist without fighting for our survival, that is the purpose of life. So, in conclusion, as Buddhists, we cannot say the followers of other religion are unfortunate or sinners, heathens, pagans. These are the uncultured words the other religion is used for us. We are heathens and pagans and sinners. But today, they are cultured. Many of them don't use this dirty word. But from the very beginning, the followers of this religion never used such dirty word to condemn the followers of other religion. The Buddha used only one word. They believe such thing, they do such bad thing because they are ignorant. This is the only word he used. He did not use even the word wicked. They do all these bad things because they are ignorant. So our duty is to educate them, enlighten them, pave the correct way for them to lead their life. So there is no reason for us to discriminate or condemn the followers of other religion, although there are a lot of differences, different beliefs, different practices. Especially in this country, this attitude is very important. Thank you. So next Friday, where and what is Nibbana or Nirvana? So I'm going to take you to Nirvana on that day to see how it looked like. And what are the differences between moksha? Moksha is the Indian Sanskrit word used by other religions, moksha. Moksha, heaven, and nirvana. So these are the three words used by all the existing religions all over the world. Moksha, heaven or paradise, either one. Paradise or heaven and nirvana. What are the differences? And what is nibbana? Next Friday. Akasattha ca Brahmattha Deva Naga Mahiddhika Punyantang Anumoditta Chirang Rakkhantu Loka Sasanang Ittavata Chamhi Sampratang Punya Sampadang Sabbe Deva Numodantu Sabba Sampatti Siddhya Devo Vasatu Kalena Sassa Sampatti Tuche Pito Bhavatu Loko Che Raja Bhavatu Dhammiko Idang jati nang hotu sukita huntu nyatayo imina punya kammena mami bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yava nibbana pattiya.